Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. This evening, my guest will be Sheriff Chipp Bailey of Mecklenburg County Sheriff Office. How you doing there?
I'm doing great, Paul.
Welcome to the show. Tell us the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in law enforcement now since the early 70s. Began on the police side and came with the Sheriff's Office in 1994. And I've learned a lot about the operation of the Sheriff's Office since that time, and because I've got such a good staff, I think things run very well.
Why is it important to have a outstanding staff? You have one. You have some.
Well, I think, the folks who work for you are the ones who make or break the operation. And if they buy into the vision that you put out there as the leader of the agency, then they are going to be committed to doing the best job they can. And I'm fortunate in that regard. I have some great folks who are committed to what they do. They believe in what they do. They believe in our mission to change lives and make a difference in these individuals that we have in the jails, and also the deputies out in the field as they interact with the public. They recognize that we work for the citizens of Mecklenburg County, and I'm everybody's sheriff, and I want everybody to know that.
That passion, where does that passion come from, being the sheriff of Charlotte?
I grew up, my dad was a Methodist preacher. Correct. And we moved around a lot when I was growing up, and got to know a lot of people. It allowed me to be able to interact with folks and be comfortable talking to people. And it also, I learned growing up that there were a lot of folks who, when they get involved in the criminal justice system, right, you have some bad players and some, I call them knuckleheads sometimes.
Correct, yes, sir.
But you also have folks who make some bad lifestyle choices. And what I've come to recognize is if we can make a difference in those who make the bad choice the first time or even the second time, and then get them turned around so that they make good choices. Life's about choices. Correct. And with every choice you make, there's a consequence. Well, what I'd like for these individuals, especially the ones in the jails that we deal with on a regular basis, is when they make a choice, they have a good consequence instead of a bad consequence.
You have a lot of outstanding programs that's inside the jail. Let's talk about some of them. The reality program.
The reality program is geared toward middle school and some high school Correct. Kids who have started to show signs of making bad choices. And we get them referred to us usually by the school resource officers who work within the schools who've had to deal with these individuals. And then we bring them in for a day along with their parents. We require the parents to come. And we take the kids and we put them in a special outfit, and we take them up into the jail to see what life is like in the jail. It's not glamorized like sometimes it is on television. And what the reality is of having to be in there, getting up at 4:30 in the morning to have breakfast, not being able to come and go as you please. At the same time, we're talking to the parents downstairs about issues and how they can respond to challenges that the teenagers can present, big challenges. Yes, sir. So we're dealing with the parents how to help respond and what to look out for, what the signs are with regard to substance abuse. What are the signs for kids who are starting to drift into gang activity? Those kind of things, so that together, by impressing upon these youth the importance of what could happen to them, Correct. What the reality is if they don't do the right thing, and then working with the parents to reinforce that, we've had good success at taking some of those kids and getting their lifestyle choices turned around to where they're good choices and good consequences.
Why is it so important that we start with the youth at that age?
Well, really, we ought to start even younger than that.
Correct.
Starting in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten kids, helping them understand right from wrong. Children watch their parents. They watch the ones that they idolize and are heroes. If we run red lights and say, oh, well, that's no big deal, that's just a minor thing, then that plants a seed into that child's mind. Well, you know, you've got little things that they're no big deal. But in reality is the cumulative effect. As they grow up, all of these concepts that they see, if the law doesn't mean a lot to the parent, if responsibility doesn't mean a lot to the parent, taking accountability for your actions doesn't mean a lot to the parent, then they're going to send that message to the child. And what we're trying to do, we get them a little later, correct, but we're still trying to get them to make good choices and to understand the consequences. We always want to keep the victim in mind of the crime because, you know, ultimately we deal with the offenders most of the time.
Yes, sir.
But the victim is in the forefront of this also, and if we can change these mindsets and make their choices good choices, then that helps those who not only have been victimized, keep them from being victimized again, but it also helps future folks from being victimized because these kids and the adults that we deal with in the jail understand that they can't just go out committing crimes.
Correct. Okay, you also have a GED program.
We do.
And how important is that to have that program?
Well, we have a GED program for a lot of the youth and some of the older youth, especially those who are over 18. We also operate a high school inside of a jail. The only one in North Carolina because, and we have CMS teachers coming in, and we do this because if you have folks in jail, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and they don't have a GED or they don't have a high school education, when they get out, especially the ones in high school, if they're not still engaged in the process, then they're going to drop out of school.
Yes, sir.
Those who have already maybe dropped out of school but can get their GED, then they have a better shot at getting a job. They have a better shot of making a difference in their own lives. And it's about self-esteem. If you recognize, if you complete the GED, I've accomplished something. Yes. And this is something that I'm going to be able to take forward. And then you get a job because you do have that GED or you do have that high school degree, then you're going to be able to provide for your family. You're going to be able to do better things with your life, and you won't have to support yourself through crime because people are going to survive. Yes, and if they have to commit crimes to survive, then they're going to do it. What we're trying to do is give them the tools and the opportunity to get out and do things legitimately and live a good life. We call it being taxpayers instead of tax burdens.
Correct. So that's turning a negative situation that you're in jail into a positive because, like I said, you're getting your GED and you're kind of like being productive again.
Most of the people that come to the sheriff, almost all of them, whether they're pretrial or sentenced, they're going to leave that jail and return to the community.
Correct.
Now, we can just have them sit there and not do anything for them.
Yes, sir.
Or we can work with them and try to make a difference. There's a scripture passage that starts, inasmuch as you do for the least of these, you do for me. Then, you know, that's kind of what we try to live by, because if we can make a difference with these young folks in particular, but even some of the older ones, they have an opportunity to be successful even if they've all made some mistakes, even if they've got a criminal record. We have partners in the community, business partners in the community, who are willing to hire these folks out of work release or out of the jails because they know that, you know, they've at least gone through substance abuse training and counseling. Breaking the cycle of addiction is a critical component to turning people's lives around. If they can break that cycle of addiction, then they've got a shot too.
You know, your substance abuse program.
Mm-hmm.
I interned there back in 2009, and Mr. Scribe and the rest of your staff, I mean, I learned a lot. And I saw the enthusiasm that the clients gave, you know, when they completed the program. It was so outstanding, and I see them out here in the day and they say, you know, thank you, and the fact of the matter is they're trying to change their life. How important is it to have programs like that substance abuse?
Well, here again, if you put folks into a jail setting and you don't do anything to try to make a difference,
Correct.
then when they get out, they're going to go back to their neighborhoods or their community, and they're going to re-engage with their old friends and do what they did before. If you can break that cycle of addiction, if they have a better understanding of what brought them to jail, and here again, we call it freedom through responsibility.
Correct.
In a lot of our programs, they take on the responsibility for what they did. They break that cycle of addiction. They get the education or the training that we offer. Then when they get out, they have a much higher probability of being successful. It's all about increasing self-esteem. Now, it doesn't work for everybody, but you know, if we turn just a few around, then I think it's a success.
Correct.
And we're having success. We've got some really strong success stories coming out of work release, coming out of other programs that we offer that you know, it makes you feel good. But not only does it make us feel good, and you mentioned the staff, they see accomplishment.
Correct.
The former inmates see accomplishment, and so it's a win-win for everybody.
Another program, the Reading Fathers.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard about that program, you know, it seemed so exciting. Tell us a little bit about that program.
And you know, a lot of the guys that we have inside the jail, they have children, but they've been so preoccupied out on the street. They've been doing whatever they were doing. Now they're in jail. Now they're starting to break that cycle of addiction. Now they're starting to understand the dynamics of what it is to be a parent. But they've never read to their child. And in some cases, they couldn't read to their child because they couldn't read. And so what we do is we take books, children's books, and we work with these individuals over a period of time, and they read the story, and they really understand the story, the inflection of the story. And then on a chosen day, their child comes in and sits on their lap. And these men who have never read to that child before, never engaged with them before, start reading. And it can be very emotional. I mean, some of them really struggle, not for the reading part, they've got that down. It's the inside, the emotional piece, that I've got my child sitting on my lap. And for the first time, that child is looking up at me as their dad, and I'm reading to them. And you know, some of us who grew up in families where we sat around the dinner table and talked about what we did at school, we don't understand that dynamic. But for those who didn't have that opportunity or didn't take that opportunity, or the parents weren't integral in their growth, it's a big deal. And these children, it's a big deal for the child.
Correct.
And here again, that makes a difference. And that parent, all of a sudden, there's a responsibility that he takes on that he hasn't taken on before. And that helps him to change his lifestyle when he gets out of jail.
Why is that so important to try to change that individual life?
Well, the choices they had made brought them to jail.
Correct.
So are they going to make the same kind of choices that yield bad consequences, or are they going to make choices that yield good consequences? Good consequences means that they can take care of their family. It means they can get a job and keep it. It means they're not going to be dependent on some drugs to get through the day. They can have a relationship with their wife or spouse. You know, we have females in the jails that suffer some of the same issues.
Correct.
It just builds a better family dynamic when they understand the necessity to make those lifestyle changes.
I know another outstanding program you have is the work release.
Mm-hmm.
What impact does that play in that individual's life?
The biggest thing I can say about impact with work release is this. If you have people in jail and they're sitting in jail but there's no programs, there's no work to try and help them.
Correct.
The recidivism rate, that rate of return to jail is 70%. So for every 10 that get out like that, 7 of them are coming back. But if you put them into a work release program like we have, and you work with them on their substance abuse first, and then you give them want ads to look up a job for, and then they contact businesses out in the community, and some are partners with us, and they get a job, and they go out with that and work in this job, and they bring their paycheck back, and we put it into an account for them, and if their family needs some money, we'll send some money to their family. If they have to pay restitution, we do that. We bring the family in to programs like Al-Anon so they can understand substance abuse, what impact it's having on the person in the facility. The recidivism rate for someone who successfully completes work release is about 32%. That's a big difference.
Correct. Yes, sir.
That's several folks who have turned their lives around, and we have some very significant success stories coming out of work release where they understand that, hey, I can make a difference in my own life. And that's really where this freedom through responsibility comes from. Take responsibility. If you don't ever acknowledge that what you did was wrong, then you're probably not going to be successful. But if you acknowledge what you did was wrong and you start building your life back to where you're doing the right thing, then you can be successful, and we have had many do that.
How does that make your staff and yourself feel when you have someone come back telling you thank you?
It's a good feeling, obviously. It's a gratifying feeling. And in this business, when you have reinforcement like that, everybody likes to see results.
Correct.
Sometimes the results is way down the road. Sometimes it's right there. And when you have somebody who's gone through work release, and maybe they've been over there for 90 days or 120 days, and they get out of work release and they've got a job and they're out in the community, and then 6 months later you run into them, or they come back and say, you know, I'd like to volunteer, I'd like to help because this is what you've done for me. Yeah. This reinforces to the staff, this is a good thing. This is a program that works. And we can see it in the recidivism rate throughout. Our jail population in August of 2007 was almost 2,900. Today this morning it was under 2,000. Now it's not all as a result of programs. Correct. But it's a combination of these programs, enforcement strategies by the police, things that the courts are doing to refer people to resources in the community other than the jail. And what we're seeing is some success stories. The crime rate's down. We must be doing something right, and you always feel good about that.
That's great. I know we talked earlier about your staff and stuff like that. How is it important that your staff comes in there, because I know we all dealing with things in our life, to come in there with that positive attitude, understanding, you know?
Well, that's important. But, you know, with the folks, not only the ones in the jails, but all of the employees of the sheriff's office, if they believe that what they're doing is making a difference, if anybody in any job feels like that they're making a difference in their community, if they're being successful at what they're trying to complete, then they're going to feel good about themselves. They're going to feel good about their job. And it really doesn't matter what that job is. In the sheriff's office, the unique thing about that is we come into contact with individuals every day that we can make a difference with. Now, every job isn't like that. And I consider, and I talked to a group of new employees this morning and told them just that. This is a unique opportunity. You will encounter somebody every day that you can make a difference in their life. That's pretty good. You know, I think that's what we're here on earth for anyway, is to make a difference and help folks. And so I think that's what drives them. That's what keeps their attitudes positive. And I mean, we're all human, and we're going to have bad days.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
But for the most part, they believe in what they do, and that keeps them going strong.
Let's talk a little bit about Sheriff Bailey. I know, how do you deal with the stress that comes along with the position that you hold? What do you do?
Well, I enjoy getting away sometimes and going down to the coast and fishing. I mean, that's a good stress break. I don't really want to catch anything.
Correct.
Because that adds more stress to it. You just want to be there and relax and enjoy all the surroundings, the nature. I like to write from time to time, although I haven't been able to do a lot of that lately. But that's a good release. It's not so much a stress break as it is a release from everything else that's going on. But I've got good employees, and so my life's not near as stressful as people might think it is because of that.
How important is it to your family in your life, plays in your life?
Well, the family is always an important thing in everybody's life. I have a wife and 2 sons. My sons are grown. I'm active in my church. I try to be involved there, and those are all things that divert you from the day-to-day activities. When I go home, I rarely talk about work. Now, I get phone calls at home, which will bring me back into it, but I try to keep from engaging in constant thought about things going on at work. I have to get away from it, and I do that as best I can. But certainly family, I have a mother who's 87 years old, and my sister and I go have lunch with her every Wednesday. Occasionally I can't get away, but most of the time I do. And those are the kind of things that make you appreciate where you are and what your life is. I'm very blessed in where I am in my life and what's happened to me in my life, and I'm thankful for that.
I know you talked about your mother. How much of an impact has she been into your life?
Well, moms are always pretty big impact. I
Okay.
mean, what can you say?
Yes, sir.
And I used to teach an ethics class out at Pfeiffer University, and I told them, I said, if you don't take anything out of this class, just remember that when you get ready to make a decision to do something, think about, would your mother be proud of you? Because if she's not, that's probably not the right thing to do.
Correct.
Well, I think that's kind of how I draw on my mom. You know, I think about that. When I'm getting ready to do something, she reads the paper still, she watches TV, and of course her friends tell her what's going on too when they see it. So I want to make sure that the decisions I make and the role that I play in this community is something that she can be proud of. And so that's how moms have an effect in your life.
Where do you see Sheriff Bailey at 5 years from now? Where do you want to be at?
I've been in this business a long time. I don't know. You know, at some point in time, I'm going to have to make a decision that do something else. And I don't know if it'll be in 4 years, 5 years, 6 or 8 years. As I said before, I am blessed to be in a job that I love to do. I am surrounded by people who are very supportive and are committed to what I'm wanting us to do within our agency. And we'll just see. I'm taking it one day at a time and enjoying where I am right now.
And that's a good feeling.
Yes.
Good feeling.
Yes. No complaints.
Oh, God, no complaint. Okay, I know they have something called the 287G program. Tell us a little bit about that.
Of all the things that we do, the 287G probably is the most controversial. But I believe it's an important program to the community. 287G is merely a paragraph in immigration law that gives local law enforcement the authority to enforce certain immigration law. And we work closely with Immigration Customs Enforcement in doing this. And it boils down to this. If someone is arrested and brought into our jail and through our arrest processing center, whoever it is, if it's you or anybody else, we ask them the same question. Are you a citizen of the United States? Were you born in the United States? Depending on how they respond to that, we process them on the 287G to see if they are in the country legally, if they've had any contact with Immigration Customs Enforcement. We do this because it's our best way of getting a positive identification of who that person is. Prior to 287G, we had folks in our jail, we didn't know who they were. Right. And if they got released, we might find out later from ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement, that they were wanted somewhere else. But we didn't know it until we got positive identification. That would take a couple days. Now we can do it in 2 minutes. So I see it as a program that provides a safety net for the citizens of Mecklenburg County, and especially those who live in the immigrant community, because they're often the victims of folks who might be arrested and brought into our facility. So it's a program that we're partnered with Immigration Customs Enforcement, and we use it to identify individuals who violate the law, and then once their state charges are satisfied, either they go to court or the case is dismissed, or whatever it is, then we notify Immigration Customs, this is who we have, and they make a decision if they're going to tell them to go back to their house, or if they need to put them in proceedings to take them to Atlanta for immigration court and deportation.
Sheriff Bailey, we're running short on time. You know, I really want to say thank you for the outstanding job that you and the Sheriff Office does for the city of Charlotte. You know, and, if you had one thing to say to the community, what would you say?
Well, I'd say that I believe that the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office is committed to providing the best public safety service that we can provide to our citizens, both through our deputies in the street, our civilian staff who do a number of roles within our agency, and also by operating the safest, securest jails we can. We're the largest jail system between Atlanta and Northern Virginia, and I'm proud of what we accomplished there, and so I think the citizens are getting their money's worth.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the outstanding job that you do, and to the Sheriff Office, I just want to say thank you. Viewers, I say thank you for watching this show. Come on every Thursday at 5:30. Be encouraged. Thank you.